Hello, I'm Ken Bowman. I'm a retired chartered civil and structural engineer. The purpose of this video is to consider the sea defences at Seasalter. Seasalter is on the North Kent coast to the west of Whitstable. The current sea defence policies there are known as managed realignment. What this means is the existing defence line will be abandoned and a new defence line will be created some way back on the marshes. All the assets at Seasalter will be lost. The sea will inundate and they will be abandoned. Is this the correct policy? I doubt that it is, but it's difficult to be certain because in order to validate a policy, it is necessary to make at least an outline plan of what applying that policy would entail. This should have been done 15 years ago, but it wasn't. I have asked the Environment Agency if they intend to create such a plan, and they say they have no need at the moment. They're going to defer it to some time in the future. This is, of course, thoroughly bad planning. Indeed, more than that, it's dereliction of the duty that they owe to the holders of the assets at Seasalter. What to do then? I decided, in fact, by default, to carry out the function which the Environment Agency have failed to do. I devised a plan and I based it on an existing project where managed realignment was enacted at Medmary on the coast to the south of Chichester. I applied the principles from there to Seasalter and then evaluated the cost of its implementation. I then looked at the alternative, which is of course to defend the existing defence line. I looked at a project at Kingsdown on the Kent coast and I took the costs from there and applied them on a pro rata basis to Seasalter, and I evaluated a cost for maintaining the sea defences to give a 60-year design life. The figure I arrived at was £10 million. I then looked at the cost of implementing the current policy and I found the cost of its implementation was much the same, about £10 million. So you can see it doesn't matter which of these policies are adopted, the cost to the national exchequer is the same. But of course, the cost to those who hold the assets at Seasalter are of a different order of magnitude entirely. If the current policy is enacted, the following will be lost at Seasalter: the Sportsman restaurant, which is Michelin starred, this row of bungalows on the beach, a mile-long substantial sea wall, a yacht club, this row of permanent dwellings, this shop with its associated cafe, a mobile home park with more than 100 pitches, this pumping station with its associated outfall, on the left about 50 bungalows on the beach, on the right about 30 permanent homes, the Oyster Fisheries Complex, the Boat and Ski Club, and of course Faversham Road itself. And then if you look back across the marshes, you will see that the RSVPB reserve will all be inundated. I added up all the costs of implementing the current policy of managed realignment and I came to a grand total of £170 million. You can see this is 17 times greater than the figure I found for holding the current defence line. If my analysis is in any way correct, this means the current policy should be immediately abandoned. I submitted my analysis to the Environment Agency in June. It's now December. I included the following clause. Many of my costs are based on imaginative evidence. I would be pleased to be corrected by anyone with better evidence, greater knowledge, or higher skills. I have received no response from the Environment Agency, which is willing to challenge my findings. Why is this? Am I surprised? No. Because in my previous dealings with the Environment Agency, this is what I have come to expect. Why is this? Is the Environment Agency subsumed in its own bureaucracy? I submitted to them an analysis with some calculations, and I came to a conclusion. They did eventually acknowledge it, but how? They acknowledge it with this email. All this consists of is a description of their bureaucratic processes. I've hardly read it. It's of no interest to me. Here is the management structure of the Environment Agency. I see about 50 names there with fairly impenetrable management titles. Surely there's somebody here who can devote a couple of days to checking my analysis. After all, I didn't spend 2 days in creating it. It's not a big challenge. As I make this video, the country, nationally, is in economic recession, which is likely to continue. Every commentator I have read or heard, and all government ministers, say that the solution to this problem is to grow our economy. And yet here, the Environment Agency are favouring policies which have exactly the reverse effect. They may be destroying close to £170 million worth of the economy, including several businesses, with no benefit to the exchequer. Just imagine if you were a homeowner at Seasalter and you'd invested your life savings there. And with this policy that the Environment Agency are following, if you were in a situation where you had to sell, would it reduce your selling price by 100,000, 200,000? That is now, not at some time in the future when the Environment Agency get round to doing the analysis which they should have done 15 years ago. How would those who work in the Environment Agency feel if it was their homes? This is a disgrace. If anybody wishes to see my analysis, my email address follows. Thank you.